and the Rumble are not surprising bans for Cloud9. Karma has been their most banned champion throughout the playoffs, and the Rumble has been banned all but one game against Huni, so not too many surprises on that side.
Yeah, and Huni also has a 100% win rate on that Rumble when he's able to play. Actually, he's played about 6, I believe, in all of summer throughout that, and then when I hear about scrims, it's like you can't leave that open for him.
It's going to be the Gnar and the Jhin on the side of Cloud9 as they see that Rek'Sai. So they will wait on the jungle, obviously. And the Jhin is a great pickup. Sneaky's been able to do so much with it.
Yeah, and if we look at the priority of these champions from the playoffs, the Jhin is right at the top for Sneaky. The Sivir, actually, I feel like would be at the top for Immortals, and it's what they've had the most success with throughout the regular season. Yeah. And they're almost trapped into doing the Ashe against it right now if they want to bring CC from the bottom lane, which is something they've been trying to do ever since the latter half of the regular season. So that's something that Immortals is going to be picking into unless they have a pretty big departure from their strategy over the last couple weeks.
Vlad left up, not something we see very often, as well as the Echo. So already a lot of power brought here by Immortals into this game.
Yeah, and the team that will leave the Vladimir up is typically Cloud9 because they favor that Cassiopeia so much for Jensen that they sometimes even blind pick it for him. And we saw that he was able to solo kill Bjergsen in that matchup in the finals in Game 1.
And this is one of the things that's evolved throughout the playoffs. The last time these guys played in the semifinals, Cloud9 actually banned Vladimir in every single game of the series. But then in the finals, they left it open. It was first picked by TSM, and they picked the Cassiopeia into it. So do not be surprised if, even though they haven't picked it yet, if they go with the Cassiopeia on the final pick for Cloud9.
And this may have been what Immortals were also going for with the Zac pick here from Cloud9. Pinch the jungle immediately, try to get him on that Zac, because that was the game that Meteos did falter on a little bit.
I actually don't like Cloud9 picking Zac so early here. I think the Cassiopeia could have been a safe pick into the Vladimir, because this unlocks Wild Turtle's Ezreal a lot better. He played it in the 5th game against CLG when he went off on it in Toronto, and Ezreal is very good against Zac. That's now 2 targets that can essentially avoid Zac with the Vladimir and the Ezreal, and I think Meteos is going to struggle to find the right things to Elastic Slingshot into. I think he picked it too early.
A lot of the times, Immortals will kind of stump you on a pick ban phase, and you won't know what they come out with. But this time we see many champions that are usually on that ban list, and this team is scary from Immortals. It rounds out with the Cassiopeia you guys were talking about for the Cloud9.
Yeah, and Jat, you said they may have picked the Zac a little too early. If you're going to pick the Cassiopeia and you know the Vladimir matchup, well, yeah, they maybe could have waited on that.
Yeah, obviously if Meteos is just confident on Zac, we know that the jungle was pinched with the Gragas being banned and the Rek'Sai being first picked. So if he's not going to be going for Zac, he's probably going for Elise. Yes. So you can see why he was willing to pick it early, and you want to give Jensen as much flexibility as possible. But I'm actually pretty happy from a Immortal standpoint with the draft they've been able to put together.
Yeah, but when I look at Cloud9's draft, it's a big question for me is how is Impact going to do on this Gnar? Because it has been his go-to champion. They have first picked it for him many times, first round, and he has been an absolute monster. He's been, honestly, SKT Impact, you know, we've been saying that. He's Cloud9 Impact right now. This guy, it's a new era for him, and he's redefining himself.
And people haven't been able to figure out what to pick against his Gnar. In other regions, like if we watch Samsung versus KT, you saw QV play Kennen against it and crush. But when you see Kennen get played against Impact's Gnar, he just solo kills Seraph like 17 times. So he's been dominating on that champion.
Absolutely amazing. We're going to be keeping an eye on the top lane as well. This series is going to be a close one. Let us know which way you think it's going to swing by tweeting us #IMTWin or #C9Win to show your support, and we'll tally those up and show them on screen as we get into game. Everybody's wondering about the top lane, but each lane here could carry the game for either team as we come into this matchup. Who will be the final qualifier going to Worlds for NA? We're going to find out here in this best of 5 series, Immortals versus Cloud9, and we are on the Rift.
When I look at the compositions, immediately I look at the Immortals composition and think that Adrian, you know, he's a big part of their CC here. And he has to be on point with his bindings in fights as well as his ultimates to possibly set up Huni for those team fights. It's a lot of backline dive with the Vladimir as well as having the Echo. So they're going to try to get onto Sneaky and blow up these low mobility carries.
Yeah, the Bard is definitely something we haven't seen a lot of from Adrian. His champion pool has changed a lot as the season has progressed. He was the range support guy with the Soraka and the Shanna earlier on, which was different than the 2015 version of Adrian, who was the engage guy.
Yeah, the Leona and all of that stuff. He even played Morgana back when he was in Challenger as 10Q.
And I think one of the biggest criticisms of Adrian is like, oh, small champion pool can't play very much, because when he does find his champions, he seems to focus on them. But what's interesting this year, his Taric was fantastic in Toronto, and now we're going to get to see what his Bard brings to the table. And like you said, it's a focal point of this composition, and he has to be able to land that CC.
He's also somebody you never really, until, or I guess back in the day, getting that Leona ban, he really doesn't see too many ban towards him now. So if he can keep playing the same things, hide those in the back, practice them when you can, and then you bring them out on the Rift, nobody expects it because you're that guy that just plays ranged.
Yeah, exactly. The Soraka used to be the second most banned champion against Immortals, right behind the Rumble, but people haven't been banning it as of late. It just hasn't been the same type of... no, it's funny, too, because you would think that it would be a high-priority ban because standard lanes and a high-priority pick.
That's
Soraka usually does well in them, but because we're having such types of carry top laners and mid laners with lower CC, you have to have some type of CC from the bot lane. It's why we're seeing a lot of protection champions like Bard, like Braum, like Tom Kench that also have some CC.
Yeah, and I also find that really interesting because when we look at Immortals and their 17-1 regular season in the spring and even their great start in the summer, they were getting away without a lot of CC in their composition, yet they consistently pointed that out as a flaw in their drafts and have worked towards putting more CC in. Yet, when they do put the CC in the bottom lane, it does seem like they have some execution problems actually pulling it off. So it's been a bit of a strange year for Immortals as they try to change their strategy and have stumbled.
Yeah, and this is even just a lower CC composition than most AD carries would usually have because it's the Ashe, the Jhin, and even the Sivir sometimes is just used for utility. Ezreal's just pure damage, a little bit of kiting too.
As we jump into the lanes, Impact taking a bit of a hit, but Huni's got the long range that he can keep throwing out across minions, so no worries. Should be safe on both sides for now, just farming up. Good spot for Huni, though, to have this wave, as it's just going to keep piling up in his favor. Junglers are opposite sides of the map, so we may not see too much action just yet. Let's see, Reignover may get some warding done here.
Yeah, Reignover's actually done a very interesting path. He started at his Grom, ran down to his red buff, and now has doubled back towards the top side. So it almost seems like he's there to aid Huni in case he gets ganked, because oftentimes if Huni's pushed up around 3.5 minutes is when you would expect a gank to arrive in that lane. But Reignover is in the vicinity to prevent that. And of course, Meteos is nowhere close, but this is total guesswork as far as junglers are concerned.
Yeah, and things are a little bit more predictable with standard lanes too, because you know that junglers start on the top side of the map. They don't start on the bottom because they AD carry wants to take that camp.
Right.
So Meteos didn't gank around 3 minutes, so then Reignover was able to go to the top side, make sure that he could get some coverage over there, and Adrian even invaded just to make sure.
This choice in Zac as well does allow Jensen to get that blue buff, as Reignover would be giving it over to Pole Belter, so he kind of keeps in pace with that. Not that Pole Belter needs that much mana.
Yeah, and also when we look at this top lane matchup, the biggest thing to point out is the jungle proximity percentage. This is the percentage of the time the jungler is within 2,000 units of the top laner. You can see more than double for Huni with Reignover, and that's actually a little bit lower than you would expect sometimes with the way Reignover would camp for Huni. But it just kind of goes to show that Impact has been having this performance without the help of Meteos.
Very, very true.
He said it was so easy to play alongside him. Just top die. And
you don't have to worry about him. You don't gank for him, and he still gets kills.
Yeah, he's really been almost like a luxury for the team since playoffs started, where, you don't have to put anything into him, and he's just paying it off. It's weird. It's a great performance from him.
The things he's been able to do recently creates such a scramble for the opposing team. If he can get that lead, he understands, like, he may die in the side lane, but his pressure is actually useful. I don't know if Immortals is going to let that pressure go
got to
to
gank
waste,
fast.
though.
He's on a ward, so C9's got to play retreat.
Nice gank. Looks to go for Smoothie. He can still jump back to Sneaky here if he wants to. Actually goes for the flash out the heal as well from Sneaky.
2 summoner spells is critical for Reignover on that gank. It does cost him a decent amount of health, and he did reveal on the map, but that's actually a great gank for him. He needed to recall anyways because he hadn't shopped, and with 2 summoners down, that can apply a lot of pressure to that duo side.
Exactly, especially a flash where you can just repeat gank that, use your own flash to end up closing that distance and almost guaranteeing a kill next time he visits. So this may pull Meteos' attention towards the bottom, which could be a little bit of a jungle map movement juke, where now maybe Reignover plays towards the top side because he gave advantage to his bottom already.
You saw Meteos throw a quick ward in there, starting to get forward ones in. Gives him an idea of where Reignover is. We saw in their previous match with Zac that just one missed gank on Zac kind of threw the game in favor of Immortals there. He had 2 good ones, but just a hair away on a 3rd one, and it swings it.
That was totally Jensen, though. I'm going to say that. Jensen missed so many skill shots in that one.
Yeah, and you look at him now, he's level 5. That's around the time when Zach's ganks start to become a little bit threatening. Level 6, 7, and 9 are the other big breakpoints where he gets the big ganks off. And the fact that Reignover hasn't heavily counter-jungled Meteos or had successful ganks before that point does actually favor Cloud9 a little bit, because this is when Zach can look to kind of bring things back, so to speak, in a normal matchup. But he actually hasn't really fallen that far behind yet.
Yep. Jensen able to keep CS up 58-44. I won't see too much roaming from these mid laners just yet, though, as they keep each other pushed into their turrets. Impact has finally gotten to the other side of the river with his wave, so we'll see if he can do any damage to Huni, who is easily farming up. Pretty safe game overall. Nobody really wants to make the first move, it seems, here. But Reignover with the vision knowledge. Actually, lack of vision. Still just trying it, I should say.
Yeah, look at the gap in wards for C9 on the bottom side of that map, and a lot of this is a continuation of Reignover's gank earlier. He got 2 summoners out of the bottom side. Therefore, Smoothie and Sneaky don't want to push up. Meteos doesn't want to visit a losing lane, so they just kind of abandon that side of the map. And Rek'Sai is spectacular at soloing the Dragon. He gets a little bit of help from Adrian and Turtle because they're pushed up, and that's a great early advantage for Immortals.
Yeah, and you could see that Meteos was trying to make something happen on the top side of the map, maybe if Huni plays a little too far forward, but Huni was aware of where he needed to be, and the Ocean Break falls into his hands, which is great for Echo because you're spending so much mana in these trades early on against Dinar.
Reignover as well, making quick work of all of his camps. Meteos gets a tunnel on his way in and out there. Gromp perfectly spawns as he void rushes in. And they're not too far behind each other. Pretty close, 36-32. Building up on their items here as Meteos is taking a little longer to go back and get that second purchase in. Cloud Drake is coming up next. And so far, the only pressure towards bottom was acted on as a dragon here for Immortals. They didn't go back at Sneaky and Smoothie for another gank just yet.
Yeah, and we think about the top lane matchup so much between Impact and Huni. We've seen the jungle pressure on the bottom side, but the mid lane matchup in this game is really interesting to me as well, because Pobelter feels so confident on Vladimir. When you hear him talk about this pick, he usually thinks it's GG as soon as they get a lock in. He's amazing on it in team fights. But then you look at Jensen, who has probably equally as much confidence lately on Cassiopeia. Yeah, the 7-0 Pobelter.
Exactly.
It's GG when he gets it a lot of the time. Jensen picked Cassiopeia into Bjergsen's Vladimir, and that was the only win C9 had in the finals. Then had to deal with Bjergsen's Cassiopeia and got crushed. So these are 2 players on champions they're very good at, and they're really isolated in that mid lane, which is super exciting.
Hopefully we get a little action out of them too. Like you said, Pobelter going hard with that flash up means the play could be made, but the same from Jensen as we get a little bit down here. Scuffle around the Dragon Pit. Twin Fangs is going to push Pobelter out.
Really bad. Oh,
he should be easy on that one. No ignites for the mid laners.
Yeah. Early pool there too. Making sure that he can't follow him.
That's true. A few more flash and a poison tick could definitely take him out.
It still puts him very low and in a bad position in this lane.
Dragon's already down, so kind of fighting over scuttle control here, as well as possibly picking out some summoners. Nothing comes of it really. It's like Jensen and Pobelter both hold there as Reignover gets control of the area, and they now get to sneak in a little bit here.
Got to be careful not to mess up this. That was great pressure by Reignover, forcing the smite. Jensen may have wanted to stick around a little bit longer in lane, but he knows he's going to run out of mana right now. He even baits his recall, like, wait a minute, Pobelter shoved up. Now he has to lane with lower mana, and that's going to allow Pobelter to catch up.
Exactly. Cassiopeia, it's a little bit free to actually CS with this because you get mana back when you last hit, but he has his tier and he wants to be able to just spam the spells out with a high frequency.
The command has been given.
Yeah.
By High. Activate Jensen.
It was extremely powerful for him last regional qualifier, that's for sure.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting thing to note because Cloud9, since their inception, have always made Worlds, and if they make it this time, it's the first time they've done it without High.
And you look at Immortals, and this is the team that was basically built to go to Worlds. For some reason, there's a curse all over the world on teams to do that, and they don't find themselves. Super teams don't find themselves going. Another amazing split, and if that's number 2, it's crazy if they don't go.
Yeah, going 33-3.
Yeah, overall,
over the year in regular season, and then failing in playoffs twice and getting 3rd place. It could be one of the biggest flops that a team has seen in postseason in NA.
Well,
that's blocked by Smoothie.
They are the final boss here. We'll see if they can put up that fight.
Yeah.
Good knockout in the top lane by Impact as bot lane, they get a little bit aggressive. We thought it would stay calm.
Yeah, and to just combo off that Siren, high stakes for all of these teams. Like,
Yeah.
Rainover and Huni were in the World semifinals last year. Wild Turtle, since he joined the competitive scene back in 2013, always goes to Worlds. Like, both of these teams have so much on the line, but only one of them gets to go. And it, for whatever reason, I feel like they're both good enough to
They
go,
are.
but only one can, which makes this game really tense. Clear that wave impact.
Boom. Very satisfying. Instantly gets him a good back there and forces Huni to have to use the ultimate to go back.
Small advantages that are making Impact a little bit bigger. Got that CS lead. Huni can obviously still put up a huge fight as he comes in. He'll be right for Sneaky on that back line and looking for Jensen. So the fights are going to be hectic with these divers.
Yeah, and it almost seems like this game is going to be going into whoever can get the item power spikes first, and then force a team fight in the right spot. Because Impact has a minor CS advantage over Huni, Jensen has a minor CS advantage over Pobelter, and then the duo lane for Immortals has a minor CS advantage over C9 thanks to the gank. I think favorably wise, the solo lanes are kind of going towards C9. But if Huni gets his Trinity Force around the time Impact gets Frozen Mallet, and likewise with the Spirit Visage on Pobelter, like those 10 CS advantages aren't actually going to matter in team fights. It's going to be all about the team fight setup.
Exactly, and the team fights really matter because these teams are not exactly built for sieging. Sure, you have a split pushing top laner if they get ahead, but your wave clear and the other 4 members is a little bit unsafe. C9, they have a little bit better wave clear, but Immortals will struggle in that regard if they're put in a siege situation. So it's about those team fights.
And something we have to keep a look on in those fights is both supports exhaust. High damage from the mid laners. Huni as well in that top lane. What's the choice? You can't make the wrong one with that exhaust in that moment. It's going to be very, very tense with the supports as well. We'll keep an eye on everything as it comes around. Our only 12 minutes in on this one, and still 0 deaths. First blood, first turret still to come, so we're looking for that gold lead to actually pop out of nowhere. It doesn't look like anybody's setting up too much to make that happen. Rainover, however, is getting himself into Meteos' jungle.
Going to Meteos' jungle, they saw that Meteos was hanging out by the Raptors, so now Pobelter will play a little bit safer in the meantime because he hasn't seen the Zac leave the jungle. They're also playing to this side on Cloud9's bottom half. They shoved up the wave. They have their support and AD carry in that tri-brush. And they're just trying to protect that red buff.
Protect the red buff. Also just get control of the jungle here. It's what C9 kind of seems to have done. Turtle and Adrian could be in a little bit of trouble if they decided to dive, but with all the people that can feint down bottom, it wouldn't be it could be a dive that gets turned around because almost everyone from Immortals could arrive.
Yeah, and they don't have vision control in that jungle, so you can see Pobelter just hanging out there. He doesn't know just yet that Cassiopeia is down there. Now he's going to see that and say, okay, I can shove it up. Because if he had gone straight into that bush, he may have been killed and chased down by Jensen.
Yeah, the tension to me in this game is really building up because I don't expect the teams to stay this passive for much longer. They played a 5-game series 2 weeks ago, and the fewest kills we had in any of those games was 24. So I feel like the pace is going to increase pretty hectically pretty soon.
And that's been Immortals' thing, too, is once the game gets out of hand, they just keep going. Whether they lost the fight, they try to win the next one, or if they won that fight, they're like, all right, this fight's going to be easier, and they keep doing that. It's that skirmish style. Once they find an advantage, they don't just sit on it. They try to push it out.
And that's exactly what this is building to be. The later they go, the more damage they have. The one fight now means turrets after that, means much more after that since you're farther into the game. Almost got a solo one there. Impact trying to put another one in the book.
And this is before Frozen Mallet. So Impact is doing a tremendous job to pressure Huni. Huni wants to recall and then ult back, but he also doesn't want to recall before he has enough gold for his Trinity Force. So he's on a really greedy timing right here to try and make sure he doesn't get solo killed.
And there really hasn't been any, I wouldn't even say love for Meteos, but it's almost like Impact is saying, no pressure towards this lane. Let it be 1v1. If Rainover comes up, I'll do the best to save myself. But Meteos has kept himself in the jungle and more towards the bot lane mid lane.
And Meteos hasn't fallen very far behind Rainover in CS either. I think Rainover, from a teamfight perspective, is going to be much stronger right now. Cinderhulk and Durarm's Fist fully stacked up right there. But Meteos isn't even sitting on a completed jungle item yet. He really wants to get a Cinderhulk, but he's kind of a little bit of everything in that item build.
Yeah, there's always that risk if you back right now that a gank happens on the top side. It's just that Rainover pressure. And Cloud Drake is also on the table, and the vision control has just fallen off. So he has to back, finally get some items for himself, and then reestablish control. And that's why he's coming back with a lot of wards. Oh, sneaky impact there.
Clever.
Mega.
Quick hit. Does have Chrono Break. Mega will come off of the minions, and this may just be a teleport back or a Chrono Break back. Rainover was even topside to give a little bit of support here.
Yeah, that would have been interesting if Impact had actually launched off his head and got ahead of him.
Into the turret range.
Rainover was in the area, so he was kind of prepared for that. Yeah, that's going to mean item break points hit by both of these guys. Huni ulted back actually before he could heal the full, but he did stack up his Corruption Potion, and he's maintaining his teleport with the Triforce. But when Impact gets Frozen Mallet, I feel like that's a power spike that actually helps Impact more than it helps the Trinity Force user and Echo.
Yeah, that's very true. It ends up allowing him to chase you down the lane, so every time you push up past the middle point, you risk getting solo killed by the Gnar, whereas the Echo, it gives you that cooldown reduction so you can keep farming the wave with your double Qs, but other than that, it's mostly for killing the AD carry.
Now this becomes a little scary. Jensen, Morellonomicon with that Abyssal Scepter. He can definitely still kill Wild Turtle or somebody quick if they come up. Does it look like they're gonna beat that one up?
Huni just backed and bought an Elixir of Sorcery. Hasn't popped it yet, so he is waiting.
Fight time, he stole it!
Oh, Meteos able to get it. Remember, he still has his passive. Pobelter gets knocked out. We're gonna see Adrian going down. The Tempered Fate does not help too much. And they are on to Smooth. The Immortals now losing 2 more. Double kill coming in now for Sneaky. This is huge for Cloud9, and they are just able to rout Immortals. They push them back into the own side near their blue buff, and now they are on to Wild Turtle. That's going to be the cleanup. It seemed like all of Immortals' ults just kind of did nothing to the C9 composition.
It was such a strange setup because it almost looked like Immortals was just going to be gifted the Drake, and I think that put them
That's what caught me
into
off
a
guard.
false sense of security. But guess what? Meteos can fly across the screen, steals the Drake, and that itself was a distraction. And it almost felt like Immortals was distracted in that fight, whereas C9 was very focused.
And that's going to be the first turret gold as well, going over to Cloud9, and it's just split between Meteos and Sneaky here.
That's the explosion we were waiting for in this game. And now the question will be whether or not Immortals can recover from that, because in the past they just continue to go in, but that is such a massive team fight loss.
Yeah, and let's see this again, because they pull it out, and then Immortals start walking through. It's already half HP. They think they're going to be gifted it, like you said, but it's right on the Scuttle Crab. They have full vision of this.
Yeah, and I was expecting Huni to teleport in earlier. He was recalled and running back to base, yet it's Impact that beats him heavily to this. The Jhin ultimate gets a couple of shots off before the Bard ultimate hits. Adrian ends up falling, and then Pobelter only gets his ultimate on a small crew of people, so really, it's like Riv said, the Immortals ultimates didn't really amount to anything in this fight.
Yeah, and in contrast, the Cloud9 ultimates were quite good. Sneaky ended up getting a kill with one of his, and then Smoothie's ultimate was across 2 to 3 people there, and one of them was Pobelter, so he was holding up the Vladimir from getting towards that back line.
Spent a lot of that fight trying to figure out where the ults went. It seems like they just hit the void.
Well, Huni didn't have his.
That's right.
Pobelter used his on a few
he just
people.
came back up.
Rek'Sai doesn't really have a real ultimate, and Adrian's ultimate was used directly onto Sneaky. So, like, they used them, but they just weren't going to have a big impact.
Well, this is what you talked about, Zyrene. Once it opens up, Immortals, whether they were on the winning or losing end, they're still going into fight as soon as they come back. They recognize an opening in mid and are able to break down that turret. That allows for more forward vision. His Impact here, creating his own pressure on the top side for the entirety of this 20 minutes. Gets the turret for himself.
He gets turret for himself, and now Meteos actually looking towards the mid lane just to shove it back out and make sure that they can establish a little bit of control here. They bring their bottom lane as well. And it's a little bit of a siege situation here.
Yeah, it's the only remaining outer turret for Immortals. C9 was able to take the top and the bottom, and since they still have some shove in the bottom side, it's natural that they move people up here and maybe try and get some wards in the jungle, but respect is given, they back away, it's time to buy some items.
Yeah, and speaking of buying items, it's the Trinity Force as well for Wild Turtle. So this composition will kill turrets quite quickly with the double Trinity Forces when they get to them. But it's, once again, low CC, no Iceborne Gauntlet here. So when you're in these team fights, you really have to make the CC you have count.
Yeah, and that means not having the Bard ultimate just used to interrupt the Jhin ultimate after it does damage. It needs to be used to help initiate the fights and get in range so that Huni and Pobelter can set up. Yeah. That is one of the greatest synergies that we have with Bard, is the Echo parallel convergence. You just get the 2.5 second stun off of the Bard stasis, but that's never going to happen in the manner that Immortals played the last fight.
But that's the typical use of the Bard ultimate, is to interrupt the Jhin, so Adrian is going to have to, first off, realize that he needs to use it onto somebody like Jensen and Sneaky simultaneously, but Cloud9 can avoid that, because I think that Smoothie is doing a great job of stalling the front line.
Ooh, Rainover looking to do a little warding by himself. Always a dangerous proposition. He gets himself taken out as Cloud9 collapses immediately. This may be the pressure they need for mid.
And Rainover, once again, he hasn't really been looking like himself since playoffs started. And this is maybe the start of something where there's playoffs Rainover, where there's a lot of pressure on him, and Immortals just haven't been able to deliver in that circumstance.
Gorgeous CC chain by C9 right there, and they only burned the Zac ultimate, so they go straight to Baron.
All right.
This will delay, but will they continue on? If Baron's at 5k health, Immortals would have to go.
Pobelter throws the Hemo Plague down. 3 members having to back off. Exhaust very early onto Pobelter. He's able to pull that off. Full damage now coming in from Immortals if they want to start attacking, and that scares C9 enough for them to pull off.
Baron at 20 minutes is incredibly threatening and can take half of a team's health by himself. So when Immortals approach, they're very smart not to fully commit, knowing that C9's going to have Baron threat from the other side. And I think C9's smart to back off without suffering any casualties.
Overall, still a good exhaust from Smoothie as he tries to mitigate that Hemo Plague damage and make sure nobody falls to some extra Baron hits on the way out. 5-1 here as things have definitely started to heat up. Immortals looking for a lot more. Impact cleaning up a wave in the top side here as Hooney might have a little bit of time to roam and help the team out.
Exactly, and in 45 seconds that Infernal Drake spawns, and that's what everybody is setting up for now. Get your visions down. Get your visions down. Get your vision down.
Get all your visions.
All your visions
down.
And it's interesting from an itemization standpoint. Impact has got the build with Black Cleaver, Frozen Mallet. Although the Cleaver is completed before any real armor has been stacked up on Immortals outside of the Warden's Mail from Rainover. So the ideal for Cloud9 is if Impact could have turret threat while the Drake is being taken and then still arrive first. Really, C9 is hoping for a repeat performance from the last Drake where Meteos can get a nice engage and Immortals can't engage with the Bard.
Or caught
They just
again.
catch Adrian, or right Rainover.
Very close.
Woo. That's not good for Immortals. His ultimate's down as well, so he can't get to full health before this Drake is forced.
We don't see it very often, but Immortals now having to use almost quite a few things in defense. Looks like they're a little hesitant to take away at this dragon.
And this Drake is incredibly important for both teams. You really want this if you're Immortals, but it's also a Jhin and Cassiopeia with one TP right into the middle of everybody here from Hooney, and Pobelter goes in.
They're on Meteos right now, trying to get him out. Smoothie very low as he flashes out as well. Impact in the middle of the fight onto Cooney. He chrono breaks back, and they're gonna have a double kill now for Impact as he Mega Nars out just before going down. Pobelter against the wall will have to pull to get out, but he goes down to the captive audience. And they're gonna be onto the Infernal. Cloud9 come up huge.
And that looked like it was going to be Immortals' fight at the beginning. Hooney with the TP right in the middle of everybody, and the damage came down from the Hemo Plague, but the CC from Cloud9 turned it around, and they played that reverse perfectly.
They are just chaining their CC together so well and have such crisp team fighting right now. They're not allowing Immortals to lock them down for those final kills, and the turnarounds are just continually there. The Rylai's being completed on the Cassio, Impact being so fearless on Gnar. It's all working out for C9 right now.
And Pobelter thinks he has the perfect flank. That ward goes down, TPs to it, throws down on three.
On three.
Those are the two damage dealers. They get very low. Smoothie blocks the ultimate, and Sneaky and Smoothie get away where Jensen's now in a corner, and he doesn't have threat on him. Meteos covers the ground, and now Immortals are in full retreat.
Yeah, and again, the Bard ultimate does go down onto the Jhin, but it's a one-shot off, and you're basically just trading ultimates at that point, so C9 can then continue the fight, and that is not what Rainover wants to see. Now 0-3 on the game.
Going to be difficult. You obviously know this is the best of series. You still want to win each one, so with that in mind, there's that extra weight now on Immortals here to make this game one again in their favor, falling down 5,000 gold, and the dominoes keep falling. Every time Meteos can get in range, he's got somebody as well on those Zac hits, and they've only almost taken down Rainover 3 times.
And you can see that Rainover right there flashes into the magical journey because he's just so scarred from if I die. You know, they've shown they have enough damage to take me down. Now the Baron started. They know this is happening.
They chunked Rainover with the curtain call.
Pobelter's not there. He's on the bottom.
Impact is fighting 2v1 right now. Rainover's gonna go down. Impact able to just soak up so much damage. Turtle in. He's got that Muramana finish. They're trying to put down the damage. Great shot from Hooney and Wild Turtle. And again, Cloud9 try to go for Baron, and this may just be them and their fate going away here for this game.
This one was a little more painful, though, because they actually suffer casualties thanks to Wild Turtle consistently DPSing on the backside of that fight. He had just transformed his Manamune into a Muramana, so he was hitting really hard.
Yeah.
And C9 really overestimate their strength going for that Baron.
Yeah, Impact, it looked like he didn't expect that much damage to come through and ends up dropping when Huni comes back in again. This is a good call from C9 in theory because you see Pobelter on the bottom side of the map. You already chunked out Rainover and Adrian gets low. Then they all go onto Rainover and they really aren't paying too much attention to Wild Turtle.
Exactly, and after they get that kill, they either should have continued on to Wild Turtle or just completely cooled off the Baron because they never actually dealt with the biggest threat that was in the fight, and that was Wild Turtle. So Huni also was able to come from the top side and pick up another kill, and that actually keeps the game quite close.
So finally, Impact going for that Guardian Angel. A little bit of defense. Aegis of the Legions being finished up here for a bit of that magic resistance, which is imperative against these Immortal teams. I always love to bring that AP to the table, and once again, they have done so with the Vladimir and Echo composition. I'm looking to round that out with the Ezreal. 3-9 here, 27 minutes in. Again, Cloud9 approached the Baron, and they've been pushed away twice.
Yeah, and a lot of this game is about setting up the right team fights, and it's something C9 has been able to do. I do want to talk about the ideal team fight for Immortals, though, because we keep talking about Adrian ulting sneaky. That is good, but it needs to be followed. If they can follow that with Huni or Pobelter, then it works, but it could also just be a pick. Pobelter's in trouble.
Rainover on the back line.
You take away that synergy of one, Dustbringer goes down, Glacial Fissure as well into Rainover. This could mean Baron as well. The 50-50 is off the table. Huni is going to get taken down before he can even use his ultimate. 45 seconds on the clock for these death timers, and now it's just Immortals trying to toy with Cloud9 as Impact gives the medicine right back to Pobelter here.
I really feel like the synergy is just not working for Immortals right now. So much of the year has been Adrian following up on Huni and Rainover. But in this combination, Huni and Rainover need to follow up with Adrian. And he seems to be waiting for them to make the move anyway, and they're getting very ineffective Bard ultimates. Now C9 with 2 dead, turn for Baron yet again.
And here comes TP from Impact. Wild Turtle gonna have to go over the wall and get out of there. But
captive audience! Into the deadly flourish. You couldn't have planned it better. But it works out for Cloud9 once again. Unfortunately for Immortals, now this Baron will fall.
But do they give it up? Rainover and Huni are on their way.
It's going to be the shield up, unbreakable for Smoothie. It's what he's been for the team just about all split long. He tries.
Huni's in the back of the pit.
Last time in the front. Parallel convergence is over, but he was not in it. Meteor still has time to move. Huni now taking some shots. Impact jumps towards the team. Pobelter's going to take a last hit here. The miasma out. One last Q. The Noxious blast over the wall, but he can't get in range.
Just flash.
Pobelter stays alive. Oh, yeah, just flash. That's the name of the game in that one. And Cloud9 say, thank you for Baron. And now they're going to start heading forward down mid.
A completely hectic series of events
Absolutely
there.
crazy.
Impact zoning them off. They're going to get more off of this. C9 have been playing these fights better because it's a little bit easier for them to execute because Immortals have drafted themselves a composition that is very hard to execute.
Yeah, and Immortals is also throwing themselves into the fire over and over again, and C9 is laying in wait. When we see that fight again, I really want to call attention to Jensen's Cassiopeia because I felt like his DPS uptime was incredibly high. Like he was doing the majority of the damage in that fight like he had to and really matching Pobelter. Watch this. So C9 is taking the Baron on one side. Huni's flanking around the side, but it's just Jensen. He positioned himself away from Huni and Adrian, then just shreds through Rainover, and there's no way he's allowing Pobelter to walk through him to the rest of the team. C9 is actually distracted with the Baron right there to finish it off, and it's because Jensen was just bodying 2 people on the other side of the fight.
You don't say.
Yeah, the command was given.
I apologize for the meme, but that's exactly what he was doing.
You never have to apologize for memeing.
Yeah.
IMT cleaning up every resource they can in their jungle so it does not go to Cloud9. Anything past this Dragon Pit right now is owned by them. And we've seen Immortals come back from more. A bigger deficit than this, so cannot count them out just yet. They're also hitting a few more breakpoints. Wild Turtle needs to start, I don't know, he needs to have kind of more of a backline safety, but everybody on his team is diving in.
Yeah, but they're also getting caught too, and I think Sneaky's Jin deserves a lot of credit here, as well as Smoothie, because you look at how many times Rainover's been caught, it's usually from that. They get the binding, and then the Zac has the elastic slingshot in with the follow-up, the knockback, and they're just catching somebody out before these fights even start, large portion of the time.
Yeah, and with Baron buff up right now, it's the attempt of the Seed. You can see how well Immortals would be able to clear it, but Impact has a split pushing build as well as a Guardian Angel, and they're trying to do a classic 4-1 split push here.
Jensen's Miasma does so much, covering that ground from Hooney coming in. Turtle trying to get a few shots and then get out. They really get a little bit more time to work with here as they approach these structures. Back to the top lane. Looks like Pobelter's going to be taking care of Impact for now. But that GA is definitely going to be a problem. Deadly Flourish onto Turtle. He's going to take a bit more poison. And I say a bit, almost goes down. A great hit up from Rainover, but can the rest of the team follow? That has been the question. He is a focus, and he goes down immediately as Pobelter finds himself left alone on the front line. Another one. A triple goes to Sneaky, looking for the Quadra. Hooney's just out of range of the curtain call as he exits stage left, and Adrian will make it to the fountain. Another 3 go down, and that's been the special number for C9 in these fights.
And C9 are going to push for an inhibitor here and get so much off of that. The picks that they're getting, there's so much damage onto Wild Turtle, he can't even rejoin the fight. And that's when Immortals decide to engage, is when their DPS has been pushed off.
And we also have to keep in mind, at this point in the game, Cloud9 is really far ahead, so they might actually end the game off those 3 kills.
On to that last Nexus.